We're live. Ooh, a Coca-Cola. Wow.
Coke is it. I love. I
I know.
I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. I love Coca-Cola. I think it's made its way into my DNA.
Really, when I was a kid, I would do Coca-Cola.
I'm going to
But I haven't.
apologize in advance.
Why?
I mentioned this to you before you went on. I'm slightly discombobulated. I've got a little bit of water thing going on in my ear,
I know.
uh, and so I'm a little bit.
So
But
wait,
I will try
your
and
usual
brave
self.
my way through this.
All right. All right.
I hope you noticed.
Yes, I'm
Well,
here. I
you
noticed
obviously didn't
everything.
notice, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm making an effort
Here
that
we
the
go.
pocket square has
Yeah.
something to do with the cigar that I'm going to talk about, or the
I
brand.
know. It's very exciting. You are becoming a man among men, as they say.
A man
Yeah.
among men.
Yeah, you like that, huh? I just thought of that. You're a man among
Well,
men.
well, 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 well. Can you possibly see? So it's a black pocket square, but it's
Here,
got
let's do
some.
this.
I don't know how to get this right. Yeah, it's got a
Mm,
little bit of gold,
mm.
yellowy gold squares on it.
So are
I
we
mean,
going to say?
it's not an exact match, but I'm
Yeah, I see that.
delighted that I found a pocket square that, at least in terms of colors, hits the brand that I'm going to be talking about. When you say, Reza, can you give me your Habanos story? I will
All right. I thought we were
steamroller
talking
into
about.
it.
I thought we were talking about agent provocateur there for a second, but apparently we're talking about cigars now. All right.
When you say
So
agent provocateur, you actually mean agent provocateur.
yes, Grandpa,
It's
that's what I
French.
actually. Yes, I know it's French. I took French in university.
You
I
should
took
have given
enough
it back.
French. I'm going to. I'm getting a refund. I took enough French that when I went to France, the waiter told me to speak English. That's how good my French was. He was like, "So you speak
He
English?" I was like,
he
"Yes."
he took pity on you. He
Everybody takes
thought
pity on
you.
me. I
He's
would take
He's
pity
an
on you.
American making an effort. At least
Yeah,
he's making an effort. Yeah.
I made an effort, and he just was like, "Sir, don't ever do that again here." And I was like, "That's fine." But I love the French people. But I asked a French girl once. In America we French kiss. What do you guys do? America kiss? But that's a different story for a different thing. Did I ever tell you? Let me just tell this joke before we start the show because I think it's a funny joke. Not really a joke. It happened when I was at university. We were having a sex education class because we knew nothing about sex in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we
Especially
had
at
a French,
university.
right? And we had a French guy in our class, and the teacher says, other than, he said, where can you kiss a girl? How many places on the body can you kiss a girl? And he asked me, and I said like 10. And the French guy in the back yells 119. Ooh. He asked another guy. Guy says 6. The French guy yells 119. He finally asked this little girl from Iowa. He goes, how many places can you kiss a girl? And she says, I only know one on the lips. And the French guy yells 120. So, I thought that was an interesting thing. And with that, we'll
And
start the
with
show.
that,
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Welcome to Habanos Saturday, the fastest growing cigar show on YouTube with over 100,000 subscribers. Come join us every Saturday live. Every Saturday live.
And
hello.
Nadar, and
I'm
Nadar,
trying to get the sinuses equalized.
I see that. And Nazar says greetings. We say greetings to him as well. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends, and we'll release his family after the show. Now, let's. Were you Nixon? Okay. So today we have a very special show for several reasons. One, we are working on the Xiao interview, which is going to come out. No. Which is going to come out, if not tomorrow, on Monday, and it is going to be spectacular. It is Academy Award winning photography.
Oh, don't build it up that much. Don't build
I'm
it
going.
up.
I'm going. It's pressure now.
What are you doing? Piling on the pressure? Are you doing that thing what was that Jewish guilt thing kind of thing that make Reza sort of like put him in a real corner so he has to fight back like a tiger?
Yeah, let's go with that. Anyway, it is going to be Orson Welles Academy Award stuff that you're going to be watching on Habanos. It'll be
Wellesian.
It'll be Wellesian. You don't want to miss it.
You know what? So here's you've touched a good topic there. what I'm trying to do now, and some of the people who are watching this stuff regularly, and I'm trying to take our discussions, even our look and feel, into some sort of noirish kind of mode, right?
Yes.
Like black and white. But I don't know if anyone's noticed, right? The thumbnails we're putting up are black, white, and yellow, because I think that yellow is a sort of
Yeah.
like an artist's touch, if you
Yeah.
feel like it. It's my way of owning noir, another genre of noir, which is black, white, and yellow.
Yellow. And so basically, we are covering every race on the planet. There you go. Anyway, now, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about it that way, but
Well,
there
you
you
know,
go.
with you, I think like that. There you go. Anyway, so Xiao's interview should be out, and then when it comes out, if you're on the channel, we're gonna let the subscribers get notified that it's out. Tell your friends. We'll post it on our social media. Blah blah
Don't
blah.
have any
So watch
friends.
the channel.
No friends. No friends.
We'll post it to the 3 fans that we have. Okay, now that's number 1. Number 2, we have an interview later today that'll come out in a week or 2 because our esteemed director, producer, film editor is going to take 6 months to make it Academy
Mate,
Award winning again.
I'm actually,
Yep.
actually, in terms of turnaround, I don't think I'm that bad.
No, you're very good, actually. I'm just busting your chops because
I'm glad you admit that. Say that slightly louder. I'm just busting your chops.
I said that. It's on tape, so it's there. You can play it back if you need it for your thing. Anyway, so yes, are we? Oh, Coca-Cola. Yes. Now let me ask you this: are we allowed to tell everybody who you're having cigars with later, or is that a surprise for next week?
Leave it as a little surprise. Let's just put that up. But I'm having, so as by way of a teaser, I'm having cigars in the next 2 or 3 hours with someone who prominently is central to the industry.
Well, thank you.
The comparison that I
No, thank you.
the comparison I would give that if I was to go, this person is as important to Cuban cigars as the person that invented the Big Mac for McDonald's.
Wow. So you're
You
having
understand?
cigars
Now
with
the Big
Ronald
Mac is.
McDonald.
I gave that to you to give you some sort of contextual feeling of the importance. So it's not necessarily the biggest person in the industry, but it's a ridiculously important person in the industry. If you smoke a Cuban cigar anywhere, this person ties you into that Cuban cigar, into the history of Cuban cigars, into the production of Cuban cigars, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that's what it might be about, into the product, a Cuban cigar, the leaf, the growing, the rolling, etc. So that I think is quite interesting. I mean, there are all sorts of personalities within the Habanos industry, right? There's social media people, there's marketing people, there's training people, there's owners, there's growers, there's rollers. But actually, to me, this type of person, or this person specifically, is one of those key instrumental people that are actually their handiwork, their intelligence, their understanding changes what you smoke. Right, so that's why I gave you the Big Mac kind of.
I got it. And there's 2 of them you're having cigars with, not just 1, but 2.
2 of them, and so that I think is going to be a really interesting thing. So it's not necessarily someone who is in terms of social media or in terms of actually this is perhaps what makes this person even more interesting, is because they're not so much on social media. They're not so much on these are sort of people who are in fabric of the industry.
Right. This is when this interview, when it comes out, and hopefully we'll have it by next Saturday and we can attach it to the show. It will be this is like a world exclusive. I don't think this person does that many interviews.
No. They do make appearances, but so in a very serious way, I'm very lucky that I get to smoke with these kind of individuals. I was smoking with my or our collective new friend Ruven.
Oh yes, the Puerto Rican
of the week.
Yeah.
Ruven, exactly, and what an interesting fellow. Again, not one of those people that's completely out there,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
seemingly fabric of the industry.
yeah.
When you look at a suit, when you look at a suit from a distance, someone's wearing a really nice suit, you get the shape of the suit, you get the color of the suit, you get some sort of idea of the design. But actually, these are the people who are the physical threads in the suit.
That's true.
They are the ones that make up that quality of the industry. So I'm quite lucky, and I get excited. Core people, people who who could tell you. In this particular instance, the clue is that I'm smoking with a lady later on,
Okay.
um, but I'm very interested for her to supplement some of those histories that I've been doing the last couple of weeks,
Right, right.
because this is the kind of person that's going to tell me stuff that's not necessarily out there. I mean, what I'm finding is when I'm exploring these histories, and by the way, it's an educational process for me. Uh, uh, to do a little bit of basic research
Right.
for
Or reading. Sure.
yeah, it's sort of it's a bit of a dive, and then if you become interested, it's a bit of a deeper dive.
Right,
But
right.
when you meet real people, I would say real people, I mean sort of fabric people from the industry,
Right.
they can supplement those histories with little stories, anecdotes that no one else knows, and
Right.
that are not written down anywhere. They're not written down online. They're not written down in a book or anything like that. And I get off on that because that is real cigar discussion. I mean, you and I, we sit and we chat about cigars, and we're creating anecdotes all the time. Okay,
Yes.
but these are people who've been sort of in
They're in
government
they're in the
position.
mix. Yeah.
Sorry,
They're in the mix. They know.
they're in the mix. And what's really interesting is what's quite satisfying for me is that since we started this thing about looking at brand histories, I mean, everyone can talk about cigars, and I'm not diminishing that. There's a place and time. There are people who could talk about cigars in a way that I've yet to learn. So
Right.
I say that as a compliment, right? Okay, there are people out there far more experienced. They will know their cigar. They'll know their technicality, etc. I'm coming from a different space. I'm interested in how it got there. How did this get in my hand? What's the history behind it? What's interesting? What's the story? Because
Right.
those are the discussions we have when we smoke cigars, really,
Right.
at the
That's
end of
true.
the day, right?
Yeah.
And if that's not the entire discussion, it's the nub of the discussion that goes on to other things like art and politics, whatever,
Politics.
whatever,
Right. Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever,
Like you
whatever.
do at a
I'm
real
not really a
cigar.
politics.
Like okay, yeah. Like you do at a cigar lounge. So it's very nice. Now that we've built this up to such a crescendo. And the show today, kids, and I know this is going to disappoint a lot of people, is only going to be an hour because our esteemed host here has to go make himself look pretty. That's
No,
what
no, no, no. I'm not the
and get to
host.
the
I'm not
and
the host. I'm the joint host with you.
there's a joint. Oh, how exciting! I don't smoke. Anyway, our host here is going to. Our host here has got himself to look pretty, which is going to take a few hours, makeup and hair, and then he's going to meet our special guests that he's going to record an interview with. So we're very excited about it. I know who the person is, only because we've talked about them for a while, and then I did research and I was like, holy moly! It is like if you are a late show host, this is like a big get. This is like having, I guess, Tom Cruise come on your show. So we're very excited to have the female version of Tom Cruise in the cigar industry come on the show.
I hadn't
That's
thought
right.
of that comparison, but well done. You come up
There
with
you
that.
thank you, thank you. And just to say, I did see Tommy's movie yesterday.
Was it good?
Great. Can I tell you, it was a very good flick. And I see Tommy running all over the world promoting the movie on all these YouTube channels. And Tommy,
I think he does it
what
best. I think he
he
knows
does,
what entertainment is, and I
he
think he
does.
does it best. Right,
And
and
let me
he's
just say
got it,
this:
and no one
he
else can do
does.
it like
And
that.
let me just say this, Tommy. If we snubbed you, Arnold Schwarzenegger's coming on the show. Why don't you come on the show? You don't have to smoke a cigar. We'll just talk about movies. So, and we're not going to talk about the one where you were a unicorn thing. That wasn't one of your better ones. But we'll talk about
Labyrinth,
like
was it Labyrinth?
that Labyrinth. Yeah, that was not my favorite Tom Cruise movie.
I
So
haven't even
it's,
seen it. I have never
I,
seen it.
I remember seeing it like on HBO at 2 a.m, and I was like, yeah, this is not a good one for him. But like Taps and Risky Business and I mean, like when I first noticed Tom Cruise was in Risky Business, I was like, that's a cool. I remember who I saw the movie with. I
Risky
remember the whole
Business was
thing.
with the pool, right?
No, that's not the pool. That's when he was going to university. And he had his house become a
Oh,
brothel.
I
To
haven't
Rebecca
seen. You
Delaney.
know, funnily enough, that's he's got one of his famous. I haven't seen that movie, but what's the one with the pool? Do you remember?
Pool. There's one with a
You know, the
pool.
pool playing billiards.
Well, that was with Paul Newman.
Paul
Um,
Newman.
and I don't. That was supposed to be a Paul made Minnesota Fats or whatever the billiard movie he made. And then Tom made that movie as kind of like a tribute to
Almost
that.
like an homage or a part
Yeah,
two or
yeah.
something.
And I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember the name. So, Tommy, you need to come on and we'll talk about those movies. But I will say something for all Tom Cruise's, when people criticize him and say this and say that, when it comes to him being an entertainer
He's
and
on.
a flip,
He rules.
he is the guy. And I read an
Rules.
article the other day that said he wants to make action movies into his 100. And God bless you, Tommy. I hope you can.
No,
But
no.
if he wants to come on the show, that'd be awesome.
He's done that
throwing it
rare
out there.
thing. He's done that rare thing. He's kept it. I mean, I know he's got all the money in the world and the resources in the world, but the actual enjoyment of going to the movies and
Yeah.
making, he's kept it totally real. That's what it is.
Real.
Right.
The stunts in
That's him.
There you go. We're celebrating the stunts he did in this movie. Unbelievable. And then I'm thinking to myself, dude, it's just like you're like, mwah. So yes, that was
he's
beautiful.
making movies about himself having fun.
Basically.
He's not working. He's just having fun.
Yeah, he's
And
having a good time like what we
I
do.
think that
Yeah.
that
But
translates onto the screen.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. So Tommy and your people, I mean, our people are trying to talk to your people, but beat Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnie's coming, and we'd rather have you. Arnie, I love you, but Tommy is a little more relevant. So Tommy, anytime you want to come on the show, reach out to us.
Smoke
There you
cigar.
go.
I don't think he smokes.
I don't think he smokes cigars, but it's okay. We'll smoke cigars. Tommy will talk about the movie industry, and it'll be a fun 30 minutes. And then he can go and jump off a roof with a parachute or some crazy fakakta thing he wants to go do. I'm just saying. And there you go. But enough about Tommy and the movies and all this other stuff. Let's get down to the brass tacks, as they say. Let's talk about the brass tack. Let's talk about the beautiful cigar history we're going to do today. And we have no intro, so we're just going to edit it and put it out.
You do have an intro. You've got that one of that my ridiculous face blowing smoke, and then that goes. You got it somewhere. You don't have to do it.
Well, the problem is that music is YouTube doesn't like that music. So
No. We can edit over that in post production.
Right, I can't edit it on this for.
I think what you should do now is instead of me doing that stupid thing, right? You should go 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going to do that. Here's what we're going to do. Ready? We're going to go. I'm going to make sure that I can even figure this out. We're going to go 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, welcome to this week's Habanos History, and I'm very keen not to say the H out loud. I've been told off never say H in Habanos, especially because it's a Spanish word, is Habanos History, okay? And for your benefit, Stephen, as you know, I don't like to do histories from a very technical perspective. I like to give you a bit of a flavor. So this week, my little story is about how Cohiba started up. Okay, now Cohiba is one of the most famous brands, and I made an effort to get a pocket square that matches the band. This is the best I could do. It's got the black, it's got the gold little squares. It's obviously nothing to do with Cohiba, but that's the best I could do. So I made a little bit of an effort. Okay, right. And so here is how I see the Cohiba story. Now, legend has it that this was a brand developed for Fidel Castro. Now, the reading I've done, the asking around I've done, is basically what happened. Is sometime early in the 1960s, Fidel Castro, who had a bunch of bodyguards, was looking at one of his bodyguards in particular, and this cool cat was smoking a cigar with a great aroma, and Fidel Castro literally asked him, dude, where the hell did you get something like that from? I mean, when I say literally, I'm transliterating from the Spanish, but it went something like that, right? Okay. And so his bodyguard said, well, actually, you might think I'm a cool cat, but there's a cooler cat than I called, let me think of his name. I made a note somewhere here. Rivera. There's a guy called Rivera who's an artisan, and he's got his own mixture of leaves and his growing process. So This guy was summoned by Fidel Castro, and Fidel said, "Look, you make a fabulous cigar. What is the recipe? We want to make it, etc., etc., etc. I'd like to make it for myself. I'd like to have it made for myself." And this guy, whether he was under pressure or not, he said, "Yeah, this is how I do it. This, I'm sure he kept behind some secret ingredients, and that could be a separate story, right? Yeah, but what happened is, in the course of this, for a certain amount of time, this guy just privately would make some cigars for Fidel Castro. And then Fidel Castro set up what was called what is still today running the Laguito Factory. Okay. And that factory privately from the late 60s. So basically, this brand formed in 1968. The Cohiba brand formed in 1968, but it was still a private brand. It was still for Castro and his sort of fellow senior staff to give these cigars out as presents, a bit like the Trinidad cigars we were talking about last week. Okay, so a lot of this artisan products, these artisan cigars, were basically the gifts that whenever they went around the world marketing their cause, championing their cause, these were the gifts that were given out. And so I can get technical about where the leaves are grown. The leaves are grown in a region called Vuelta Abajo, which literally means the low circuit track or the low drive round, something like this. It's sort of in the very western tip of Cuba. So it has a certain climatic um, benefit. So there is something about those leaves that make them slightly more aromatic, slightly more sophisticated. And I'm sure that when this was being done, sort of in the late 60s, I'm sure someone like Fidel Castro, who's got tobacco in his blood, would have said, right, this is something very special. I don't know if he would expect that this would become a premium product around the world. Anyway, so this went on for a number of years. So as I say, 1968, this is when the Cohiba brand began its sort of journey. And in 1982, during the World Cup in Spain, it was made available to the public, and it benefited from the marketing of that. And basically was three kind of sizes of cigar. There was the Panatella, there was a Lancer. It was a long, thin cigar, sort of a bit like the Fundadores, I guess. And there's one more. I can't remember what it is, but if you remember, someone type it out for me. It started with three, but then in 1992, which was the 500th anniversary of Columbus accidentally hitting the America or visiting Cuba, they did some other lines: Siglo I, Siglo II, Siglo means Century I, Century II, Century III, up to all the way up until I believe 2002. They did Siglo VI. Now, did I get that right? 2002 or 2006? I think it was 2002. Anyway, anyone wants to correct me, then correct me. But this was the origins of this brand. It was basically just one of Fidel Castro's bodyguards smoking a cigar, which a friend of his was rolling for him. And Fidel Castro got the scent on the air and said, "What the hell is this?" And that is, I think, a wonderful origin story for a truly great cigar. Um, there are other small elements to this. As we're going to be chatting, they will come to me. But that is the origin story, and I hope that people who know something more about it will let me know, and those who don't, who sometimes visit a cigar lounge somewhere around the world and pick up a Cohiba or Cohiba, they now know why it's so significant and why it's so famous and why it's so perhaps so expensive, because it ties in exactly with the history of Fidel Castro. And there's one last detail I'm going to put in: the Laguito factory that was set up. It was set up in great secrecy with a lot of protection around it, primarily because the CIA throughout the early and mid 60s were always working on assassination attempts on Fidel Castro and Raul Castro, his brother, and they would there's this famous story of the exploding cigar, and this was why everything was done in great secret. So all this secrecy and mythos, there is some origin to it, and I hope I covered that very quickly for you.
I think that was, as they say, a beauty. Look at this. We're doing a close up today. Oh, how exciting. So the people on the podcast, you don't get to see how pretty we really are. No, that was very cool. I'm good. I will tell you, I love when I'm traveling abroad or on abroad, either way. I love my Cohibas, and I will smoke them because they are still to this day, I think, one of the best cigars out there. You know, the Cuban ones, not the American. The stuff we get in America is just crap. So
You see, so the purpose of this story, for example, is it's good when
Right.
someone like Fidel Castro, for example, the origin story is that he smelt this on the air
Yep.
around his bodyguards and said, that's outstanding, right? You know that you're onto a good thing. You're connected to history, you're connected to a person, you're connected in time. When you pick up that Cohiba cigar next time, whichever Vitola is, and let me give a shout out recommendation. I always try and do a recommendation.
Yep.
Recently, I've been revisiting the Siglo II. This is a cigar that I used to smoke almost all the time throughout 2013 and 2014, perhaps even earlier. My memory is sort of a little bit disjointed, but around 2012, 2013, 2014, I was smoking Siglo IIs out of a tube all the time. It was a really well-priced cigar. At the time, you could get it for like 12, 13, 14 euros per stick. Now it's something like 40, 50 pounds. But that cigar, in terms of size, in terms of bang for buck, it delivers absolutely everything. Gives you aroma, complexity of taste. It doesn't blow your brain away. It gives you that experience of enjoying, especially if you retrohale it. You get so many different notes. It has a little bit of change. It has a little bit up. It has a little bit of down. It is basically easy listening classical music. Very enjoyable. Nothing too far out there. Nevertheless, high quality. So my shout out recommendation this week, in line with the story of Cohiba Cigars, is the Cohiba Siglo II.
And there you have it. There's our Habanos history for the week, kids. Very nice. That was
How am
good.
I doing? How am I doing?
That was excellent. I cried. Halfway through it, I cried. That's how beautiful it was. A tear came from my eye. So
Now you notice that in slightly contrasting to the shows that we've been doing in the last couple of months, when I do the Habanos story or history, I get a little bit more serious. Primarily because I'm thinking fucking hard as to all the facts that I had to remember. That's one thing, yeah. But actually, I'm making an effort to deliver these things more like a story rather than plain facts. Plain facts, people can go and look them up. But if you find any of these things interesting, I do encourage you to go and look these things up and perhaps even report back to us. I'd love to hear little snippets, little details, mistakes even, or additions that can supplement the rich history of these cigars. Once again, the whole point of the stories are actually that when you next time pick up a cigar, most people, I don't know if people look at the bands, people buy the band, but actually look at the band very closely for a change and try and transpose yourself into the history of that cigar. I mean, for example, do I have a Cohiba one here? I have loads of Trinidad bands around. I showed you that one last time. I actually smoke quite a lot of Trinidads these days, but we've got an H. Upman there.
there you go.
When you look at a band, try and focus, if you can, on the history of that band. If you know it, focus on it. If you don't know it, do a quick Google search.
Yeah.
What is it about? It should increase your smoking pleasure. It should do. And that's really what it's about. That's really what our show is about. Right. It's about sharing our smoking pleasure and increasing the social interaction and pleasure of smoking cigars.
There you go. And it's free. And we don't charge for this education. And there you go.
I don't, but you being the way you are, one way or another, you'll get them. Coming or going, you'll get them.
I'm a Jew. It's how we do things. It's okay.
Well, I didn't say anything. You said it.
Because I can. It's kind of like, I have a friend of color. He says he's black, so we'll go
A
with
friend of color. What is this?
A friend of-
Family Guy.
a family guy. I have a friend of color. Yeah, it's Cleveland. I have Cleveland's my friend. And when he says a joke, and he's told me some really like jokes, and I look at him like, dude, you got to be. It's like I can get away with it. It's the same when I tell a Jewish joke, I can get away with it. I can't.
One should be able to get away with every joke.
That's true, but I mean, out of respect. Now in close company,
No, out of fear.
Out of respect, I could care. I don't fear anything. I don't give a shit. You got the wrong one for that. But out of respect for people, I don't want them to have heart attacks. Unless I don't like you, then I don't care. But so for me, it's a different mentality. But I do enjoy when we're alone and there's a group of us and we're telling off-color jokes, or they call them blue. At some of the raunchiest, disgusting, most denigrating to a person, a race, a set. It's just funny, and we all laugh because that's when we were kids back in the day before fire. That's what we did, and nobody thought anything of it. They're just their jokes. But today, people are pussies. I get it. It's all right. So there you go. That's my little thing on jokes. There you go. Hey, so anyway, that was a very good story on Cohiba. I'm very excited.
It's just a small. The thing is this. The whole point is for me, in 5, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, yeah. Throwing out details. It's not about throwing out like lots and lots of facts or vitola sizes. Okay, it's interesting, but that's not what it's about. For me, I just want to share the story that makes it interesting for me. Now it comes to Cohiba. There are some key interest parts. The interesting part is it didn't start. This brand didn't start because someone wanted to roll the best cigar.
Right.
It started because someone already privately was making something that he thought was the best it was. Right. And then someone really famous like Fidel Castro, or sort of like almost the most prominent person, caught a whiff of it. Yeah. And that is so interesting to me. That's like going into a cigar lounge saying, what the hell are you smoking there? You know? And the thing that makes it even more interesting is that it was one of his bodyguards. And the thing that makes it even more interesting is that the guy who this bodyguard got the cigars from was a friend of his. Who was just there, a small artisan product maker. What's even more interesting is that product is perhaps the most expensive Cuban brand there is. 50, 60 years later. Yeah. And those things are, you can color in the detail, you can color in sort of the pictures and get more detail and get more interesting stories. But that is a hook in itself for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm always fascinated by history, no matter whether it's cigars or anything, even cars. I have to know the history of a car, like how it started, how this, how that. When people say, "Oh, I collect cars," I'm like, "Really? What's the history?" And you'd be surprised how many guys don't know the history. So and I'm shocked by that. I'm like, but you have to know the history. And how can you?
I just saw Nader, Mr. Behike 52 salute. So there's a salute to you, sir.
I said that earlier, but thanks for keeping up with the show.
No, I was already in history mode. I was just going through my little Rolodex of the key things. There are far more aspects of this history. And one thing I want to give a shout out to your general audience is that when not much know this story, good for sir.
I think that's almost English, but I think he's drinking heavily today. So that could be it.
Right. So what I like is that when I did the Quai d'Orsay history and when I did the Trinidad history, there's a whole group of people who are sending me material straight after the show. They say, "Oh, have you read this book? Have you done this? Have you done this?" And that's lovely. I mean, honest with you, that's really nice. That's not how I approach this. I really want to tell people to fuck off. But what happens is when you do something of value comes back to you. You don't have to go looking for it. It comes back to you. And that's this is in line with me trying to be a nicer fellow for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And,
excuse me.
And so I think we're gonna have to do a graph. I'm gonna have to do a graph for you. A graph of being nice and being interesting. And I think that there's going to be a weird shape that as you get nicer, you get less interesting. Or you get more interesting? Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I think, nice is relative. I mean, I think overall we're nice. I mean, we're not sucking up or kissing anybody's butt. So, we're nice. And if we say what's on our mind, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just old school. I think guarding what you say is a bad thing. I'll say one thing for Donnie. even though he makes up words that are still in the dictionary and tells everybody that he thought of the word, that's fine. But at least Donnie says what's on his mind, and I'm okay with that. And I think that we have to get back to a society where people can just say what they think, and people not be offended by it. So whether you're nice or you're a dick, it makes no difference. It's just if that's who you is, that's who you is. And Nadar says that English is his second language behind alcohol. So I'm not really
Well,
sure.
I got the meaning. So
I
thank you.
know.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have to
very
bust
much.
his chops because if we don't, then who will? But no,
I'm not going to bust anyone's chops.
Here we
anymore.
go.
I've
Here we
been on the wrist so many times.
Here we go.
I will save that for moments. I found myself sitting. I found myself being baited the other night.
Really?
Okay, now you're
Like
gonna
for
you're gonna find this. You're gonna find this interesting. You actually, this is sort of like I won't say a private sort of anecdote, but I was sitting in not even a cigar lounge. I was sitting on a terrace at a very, very cool establishment that used to be owned by Michael Caine in the 80s. It's called Langan's Brasserie.
Okay.
And they have a private members club. Sort of, you go upstairs, you got a great bar, great sort of music, but they've got a terrace. I'm a member there. I'm lucky to be a member there. And I went and had a smoke with some of my friends that I smoke with, not many, so you know who I mean.
Yep.
And as I walked in there were some other people, nice people who were sitting there who knew me, and in a very nice way. I'll be very honest with you, I don't take it badly. They basically wanted to bait me into being nasty. And I just wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I sort of like resisted and resisted. And sort of like the old Reza inside just wants to get out and eat the whole fucking room. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was baited. Calm. And that, had you been a fly on the wall, Stephen, yeah, you would have loved that. That was me being uncomfortable, not in a bad way. Just said, hold it in, hold it down, hold it. Not you don't even vomit yet. Hold it down. Concentrate. It was like that.
Yeah. No, I do that to an extent, and then either two things happen: I have to go smoke a cigar and have a scotch because I want to kill somebody, or I blow. It's like the niceness can only last so much. People are just too stupid. They need to be told. I'm sorry.
No, seriously. I think it's a test of. So I'm beginning to feel the aging process now. I never used to, but I'm beginning to feel the aging process. Like a cigar, I'm aging. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's I really kind of a little bit enjoying this trying to be nice when inside everything says just fucking eat the whole room up, yeah. But there's a kind of resistance, almost like the resistance in a cigar, where the self-discipline is kind of kicking in. It's like, listen, be the wiser person, be the smarter person. But then there are times where I completely lose it.
Yeah. My mom would always say, be the bigger person. I would tell her, nah, I'm good. I need to be the bigger person. I don't care. I look at it this way: for my own mental health and physical health. Yeah, no. If I need to blurt it out, I'll blurt it out. I don't really care. Because at the end of the day, I need to feel good. I'm not worried about somebody else's feelings. I stopped doing that a long time ago because I found that it made me not feel
I
well.
mean, it's going to come out eventually. It's better to come out there.
And I'd rather come out on that person than somebody
and
that
someone else, innocent bystanders.
Well, I used to hold things in, and I'd be like, I have a short fuse, whether it's 10 seconds or 10 years, and then somebody would just set me off, but then I'd be taking everything out for like 6 months on them, and I realized that's not fair on them. And so what I do now is, if you're stupid, then I just tell you in my own way that you're stupid, like you're stupid, and there you go.
Now,
So
Now, since I have done sort of the three super, well, Cador says not a super brand, but it's going to perhaps become a super brand.
Right.
Perhaps. Having said that, its origin story is almost of a super brand.
Yes, it is.
Right? So because I've done Cador say, I've done Trinidad, I've just done Cohiba.
You have.
Next week, I'm going to try and do Cohiba Part 2, which will be the Behike story.
That's going to make Nadar very happy.
Yeah, so the Cohiba Behike, which is a Cohiba line, I will try and do that, because actually this is a bit more relevant. This is more relevant to Behike because it's mainly black with gold. Cohiba's the other way around. It's more yellow and black, if you know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will already say that my next week's story is about Behike. and I will go and do some research for that. But in the meanwhile, on this particular occasion, if any of you listening want to send me some nuggets about Behike that you would want to feature, I'll give you a shout out. I'll credit you with that. But send me something unusual that most people don't necessarily know. I'm interested in the story that puts a smile on people's faces, especially as by way of anecdote.
Right.
And so
That's
my plan is this afternoon when I'm smoking with
our guest.
with guests, I want to very quickly review my histories that I've done this week and the last 2 weeks and say, well, what did I miss out? How could I have supplemented it? What else can you tell me? Which in itself is a beautiful dialogue. If you're sitting and smoking cigars, your cigar enjoyment level goes.
No,
And
on the PK, isn't that the one Clinton used on Monica? Because if that's the case, that's it. We should ask Monica and Bill.
I mean, that's a fucking good question. You know,
yeah. What cigar did you use?
Which cigar was involved in this process, right?
Yeah. Was it a Cuban or a Dominican? That's all we want to know.
I mean, it's these subtle little details, right? Yeah. God knows. I mean, God knows. And God knows if anyone knows. I'm convinced, however, that in this Cohiba story that I told you today, that the name of the guy that was making these cigars, Mr. Rivera, I can't remember his first name. I can't remember. Anyway, you can Google it. I wonder if he held back in terms of when you go and ask someone what their recipe is, invariably they hold back because they don't want you to have their recipe. They'll tell you everything except one thing. I wonder if he did hold back. I wonder if he didn't. I wonder if he was asked under coercion, tell us what the fucking recipe is. I mean, it is Fidel Castro asking him, right? Yeah. Or you could have said, I'm trying to put myself in that place. What did Fidel Castro say? Would you very kindly tell us how you roll this, or is the crew go in and say, right, what is this?
Yeah.
And that's what makes a story interesting. That sort of like the fill in the imagination, fill in the gaps.
Yep. That's very and our guest that you're going to be smoking with later may know that because Cohibas still have a nice smell to them. I mean, I wasn't smoking in 1968. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it has that smell, but if the guy survived it after he made the special cigars for Fidel, I'm assuming that he didn't hold back. He probably gave him everything. Why not?
So there is a second recommendation that comes to mind since we're talking about Cohiba, is the one that so it's a cigar I smoked for the first time maybe 4 or 5 months ago at number 6 Cavendish, actually. Marshall there said, you got to try this. It's ridiculously good. It's the Cohiba Ambar.
Okay.
And I loved it. I smoked it 4 or 5 times again. Generally what happens, if I really like a cigar, I kind of like stay on it for a few weeks.
Right.
One way or the other, that's what happens. But that was outstanding.
Now, Nadar is saying something's not going to be a whatchamacallit. I'm asking him what brand. He goes, it won't be a major brand because it's already carried in a regional edition. Major brand's not allowed to release a regional edition. I think he's talking about our little French cigar, the whatever.
The Quai d'Orsay does regional edition. The Quai d'Orsay, but that's up till now. That's up till now. I take his point. That's up till now. I heard what I heard as a rumor.
Okay.
And rumors are rumors until something happens. But it could change. I don't know. Everything's. It's very hard to know what they're going to do in Cuba. They're very secretive. They're very. As so they should be. It's their product. It's a global product. They can do what they want with that product, right? But I take his point. I take Nader's point. I take his point that they super brands don't do regional editions. Let's see what happens.
So what are the super brands then? Like Cohiba's a super brand.
Trinidad,
but I thought Trinidad did regional because Usman showed us some regionals from Trinidad.
Do they? If they do, is news to me. I don't think they do.
Okay, maybe I was mistaken. I thought he had something that was just for Pakistan once. Okay, never mind. So
no. I don't think they do. No, I'm almost confident. I sometimes. So he's talking about Quai d'Orsay. Now there's talking about Quai d'Orsay. So now that the Quai d'Orsay thing was, it's only in the last month or so, which is what prompted me to do the history 2 weeks ago, is that I heard some gossip
Right.
amongst quite serious people in the industry that it may become a super brand. It could be wrong.
Okay.
It could just be conjecture.
Right.
But I take your point.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, if they become a super brand, then we broke the story before they.
I hear that CAO Brazilian is going to become a super brand as well.
I looked up their history. Yeah, right. Whatever. I looked up the CAO Brazilian history. I looked up CAO's history because we talked about I should tell everyone about CAO. I was so unimpressed. I was like, thank God they make one good cigar, which is a CAO Brazilian. That's it. Because their history was sort of underwhelming. I was like, really? This is your history? Big deal. Because their website is for shit. If that's your history, you should make something up.
I think you're making history by smoking this cigar.
For them, I am, and when we mention them on our Instagram, maybe once in a while they say thank you, and I'm like, I'm not going to mention you anymore because you need my help. I don't need your cigar. So there's other cigars. So there you have it. But no, it's just some of the stories are fascinating, and some of the people I've met over the years in the industry are fascinating, especially in the States when you meet the guys like whether it's Rocky Patel, which I'm not a fan of his cigars, or some of these other guys that make some of these other cigars that I've met, and they tell you the story and how they did it. And it's just fascinating to hear their stories. I mean, they're not as rich in history as a Cuban cigar, but their stories are just fascinating. And it's a shame that like Oliva or Fuentes won't come on and tell us their story. I would like even CAO people to come on and tell us their story, but like I said, if their story is what I read on the internet, it sucks.
Here's the problem. I say this. I know I can be a little bit brutal. I'm making an effort not to be so brutal. All the fucking stories are the same when it comes to these When it comes to non-Cuban or New World cigars, it was always the same fucking story. Oh, I was a poor man. I'm a poor farmer. I came here with some Cuban seed, and it's the same fucking story. It just gets recycled again and again and again and again. I get it. I'm not trying to diminish anyone's story. It sounds like I am not. But it's the same fucking story. It's always the same fucking story. I came in with $5 in my pocket and 3 seeds, and then I've grown an empire.
Yeah.
Great, wonderful. I want to hear what you did that was different to everyone else.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I just want to hear something different. I just want to hear something.
I'll tell you who has a different story, and we've never asked them to come on, is Drew Estates, which is a Dominican brand. I've heard his story because I met him once at a cigar function, and I heard him speak about what he did. His story is much different because he's not from.
Good.
So he has a good story. So him coming on telling a story could be very.
I'd love, actually. You know what? This is a shout out. If you have an interesting cigar brand story, not a cigar story, a cigar, not a sort of like, oh, I smoked a cigar with Fidel Castro. I don't mean that. Yeah. I mean a brand story, because that's what, there's so many brands in the world. I'm fixated a little bit on the Cuban cigars. I have a friend, a gentleman in London, Roy Sommer, very, very nice guy, very cool guy. He's the head of marketing for Davidoff, right? He pokes me in the side about this. You fucking Reza, you turned into a fucking cigar snob, yeah? And you only into your Cubans. I said, Roy, mate, if you give me the opportunity to smoke anything, I will try it once just to put you out of your misery. Yeah, you want to try this? And having said that, this guy, I think he's been quite picky, because I've had 2 Davidoffs. I've appreciated both of them. Both of them. Right? Okay. I haven't been salty about them. It's just that I think I guess there's an element of snobbery. The issue is that in London, we are so lucky, we're so privileged that we get no end of stock and supply of Cubans, and that's a shout out to Hunters and Francow. We're spoiled for choice. You have something that's like 30 pounds, like a Ramon Alones specially selected, which is just an outrageously good cigar. It's 30 quid, right? Yeah. It's just outrageously good. Why would you necessarily, and I'm talking about myself, once again, you don't agree with me, put my opinion in the dustbin and don't even look at it again. Why would you then go and pick another cigar that's 35, 40 pounds, that's not Cuban, that is trying hard to capture the same sophistication? That's the viewpoint I come from.
Right.
I need to be, perhaps, if someone wants to convince me otherwise, I'm open to being convinced. My palate, I don't think I'm a snob, because if you ask me what my favorite burger brand is, I go to McDonald's. I had McDonald's last night. I love McDonald's. It just sits for me in my palate. No, you can. Does that mean I'm a snob? Of course not. I go for almost, when it comes to burgers, because that taste, that marketing sits in my palate from the early 80s.
Yeah.
That's what I measure things against, right? We're all guilty of that.
You don't have like a good hamburger place in London? You
No,
go to
we have. I too with Ruven. I went with to Shake Shack, but
No,
I'm
I said a
I'm
good
not into.
hamburger place.
I know, but I'm not into this gourmet. I'm not into this gourmet nonsense that it's got to be. I like fast food. Fast food
Really?
is ready, done. I know I love fast food. One of my favorite things used to be KFC or Kentucky Fried Chicken in throughout the
Right.
late 70s, 80s. It's totally changed. I don't know where you can get great Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. The flavors changed in the UK. It's died a death. I'm a fast food junkie. Now,
Okay.
the reason I say that in the context of cigars is that my cigar smoking journey started in bits and pieces in the 80s when I was a teenager, stealing my father's cigars, right? But what happens is it stays, the scent memory, the scent of those cigars stays as part of your nostalgia. It stays. And going to Cuban cigars for someone like me or someone of my age is because my father smoked them, and it reminds me of my father. Right now, I'm sure that if I say that to someone, they'll say, "Oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. Yeah, you're not a snob. I get it." But actually, people think a different way. So until you explain your own story, people presume that you're price buying or snob smoking. And so that's my explanation. I don't need to give that explanation every single time, but I go to Cuban cigars because it has a scent memory associated with it.
Gotcha. Well, I will say one thing about the Davidoff, because last year your cigar of the year was the Davidoff Year of the Snake.
Yeah, right. There you go.
There you go.
I've broken that trend a little bit.
And
I think my cigar of this year, I already think I know what it's going to. I mean, I've been through a bit of a journey since the beginning of this year to now, because of the encouragement of friends, people like Usman, Mustafa, even Christian. Upman. I've started smoking a lot more Upman, H. Upman.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that at this end of this year, no matter what I smoke, and I've smoked some pretty extraordinary cigars, my cigar of the year is going to be Siglo II, Cohiba Siglo II.
Really?
It's a cigar I revisited after a long, long time, and it's just blown me away. It's absolutely blown me away.
Okay.
And it's kind of relevant that I'm saying it on a show where we just espouse the history of Cohiba. Right, I can already tell you, I can already guess, if I make it to the end of the year, that the cigar of my cigar of 2025 is going to be Siglo II. I don't know why, but I have that feeling.
All right, well, we'll see. It'll be very interesting. And I don't know, I'm smoking different cigars throughout the weekend and weeks, and I'm trying to find my cigar of the year. But I will say this to the fans in London: when he brings up a cigar, they usually sell out by Monday, and then nobody can get them.
Yeah.
So,
No, there's I've seen people smoking Siglo II. More people who are around me. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I'll get the cigar. I'll get the cigar."
The Kesco say sold out. Trinidad, so everything you talk about, people rush to go try. So
it happens that you get a
yeah.
little bit of a trend. You get it's in the current. So what happens is we talk about these things, and then when I'm on Instagram, so it's the Instagram algorithms as well. It'll push K Dorsey. It'll just put and then you get the feeling that, hey, are people actually smoking more K Dorsey, or am I just getting marketed to, or whatever it may be? But I think there's a little bit of a trend thing. Is you set a little bit of a trend, and you don't do it on purpose. I'm not saying I'm trend setting. I'm just saying that you talk about it, people try it. That's such a great thing. It's a lovely thing. If anyone has any recommendations, send them to me. I'll try it.
Yeah, of course. And for me in the States, if you want us to try something, we'll try it. Like we tried the Don Emrys or whatever cigar a few weeks ago. It was very good. And we did a whole bunch of stuff on that, and I was very impressed. He's actually winning some awards here in the States. So I was like, good for you. And then we have another group out of the Dominican that are going to be sending us some, so we'll try those as well. So there you go. So, but I think that's the way you have to do it, and we're the guinea pigs, if you will. Now, not for Cubans. Sure. Cubans are relatively simple cigars, and Davidoff you're not going to go wrong with. But some of these newer, smaller batch brands, Those are the ones that we become guinea pigs for. When people say, "Would you try our cigar?" I'm like, "Of course we'll try your cigar." It's what the show's all about, trying your cigar. So, and our friend Nadar says Siglo II has always been a big grab for the size, even before. So there you go. So he agrees with you. So there you have it. And when I travel, I usually try to get that. Oh, it's good that we have a fan that likes us. You know how it goes. So we've got about
the fans that hate us.
I know. Well, we got lots of those, but they all watch. Who knew? So we're in a few minutes.
So the ones that hate us, there's a message. Go fuck yourselves.
There you go. Go play our favorite game. Go hide and go fuck yourself. Now, before we leave,
that was just a joke. If you hate us, that's a nice thing. It means we're doing our job.
That's right. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Anyway, why not? So we have about 4 or 5 minutes left before Mr. Reza has got to go into hair and makeup for his big interview with our surprise guests. So anything you want to leave the fans with before we go?
I want to put it, as I said before, I want to give them a little shout out to before next week when I start talking about Behike. If anyone knows their brand really well, if you have any nuggets, do send them. I'll say that one more time. I'm saying one more time because I'm actually keen to get my histories a little bit more sophisticated. And that's what will happen. It's a learning process, an educational process all around. I don't claim to know. I'm your humble servant.
All right. And if you're from the BK Factory, feel free to come on the show, and you can tell us the history instead. We'll just sit here and look pretty. Yeah, why not?
That's a great one.
Yeah, it's like, you don't have to come on. And to Arnie, we're looking forward to you coming on the show. And Tommy, I'm saying, Tommy, your movie's out. Now's a good time. And I did reach out, just so everybody knows, to the Egyptologist guy that was on Rogan. We reached out to him. Yeah, that guy. And they respectfully declined to come on. He respectfully declined to come on our show. Apparently, we don't smoke any pyramid type cigars. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I said, come on the show, talk about pyramids, Egyptology, have a cigar with us. And they said, we'd have to decline. And I'm like, then you decline. And we'll just tear you apart.
They probably fear that you'll savage him.
Probably. I think we would savage him. I think our fans would savage him too, because they'd hear the crock of crap that comes out of his mouth about Egypt and the pyramids, and they'd be like, dude, come on. That's like fake history. Now tell us the real history. So with all the new stuff.
It's taxi driver history. All taxi drivers seem to know everything about everything. It's that kind of history. And
especially in New York, they do. They know. And in London, they got to take a test. Don't they have to take a test on all the sites and stuff?
No, I'm not talking about routes even. Yeah, taxi drivers seem to know everything from geopolitics to science to world. They always have a fucking opinion, and their opinion is always right.
That's because they have all those people sitting in their cars. So to all the cabbies out there, thanks for watching the show. There you go. What else do you want to say to our fans before we leave?
I want to say
subscribe and like.
I want to say subscribe and like. Take care of yourselves and of each other.
Oh my God! I just threw up in my pants. Anyway, again, there you go. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Don't remember. I'll try to remember. Live every Saturday. We broadcast Saturday afternoon. We will put out the Habano history that we did today during the week as its own little 10-minute segment. You can go into the playlist on our channel, and you will see Habanos, interviews and histories. That's where just all the little segments are there with no shorts. So if you just want to watch that, you can. We will put out the Xiao, hopefully the beginning of the week. And the big interview that we're doing today, we'll try to get out Saturday right after the show and give you the link and whatnot so you guys can watch that. And next week, we will tell you who that interview is with. And most of you people that know anything about Cuban cigars will probably be like, oh my God, I must see that. And you'll only be able to see it here in the 2OF Entertainment channel. And there you go. And other than that, kids, have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your cigars. And as we like to say, Gio, and thank the McAllen people again for their 25-year-old and their scotch as well. So there you go. And as we like to say, cheers, everybody.
Signing out.